So, welcome this week's episode of the Lovefly podcast, and we welcome Emily Birrell. Did I get that right?
You did get it right.
You had a little practice before, yeah. So, a huge welcome. So, Emily, you will probably recognize her because she contributes a lot in the Lovefly community. So, her name pops up quite a few times. And so, you may have come across her story, I don't know. But this is our chance to get to know you a little bit, Emily, and for people to listen and learn from you. So, huge welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so honored to be on this podcast because it has brought a lot of healing to me. And before we dive into everything, I just said thank you, Paul.
I'll cut this out,
No, don't cut it out. You have led this community so well, and the people that are a part of it too, like John and Peter and all the other people that I know that I could name off. But just thank you so much for this. And it has changed my life. And I believe that the person that's listening to this too, if they've made it this far from the beginning with all the podcasts, which is so awesome, that they will find healing in this community as well. So thank you very, very much.
Wow. That's a start, isn't it? Crikey. I went for that. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm very humbled by that. And I'm going to move it on swiftly before I get digging. So, Emily, tell us about you, where you live, what you do, how you found us, all that sort of stuff. This is Troy.
So I live in St. Augustine, Florida. It's a beautiful place. It's paradise. The people in the the Midwest of America, they call Florida the promised land. It's kind of like this golden place to travel to and to vacation and to live, and it really does. I love Florida. I know that there's funny memes and stuff online about the Florida man and Florida vibes and stuff, but I think it's just such a sweet place. It's lovely here. I've lived here now for over 7 years. I was originally from Michigan. That's where I grew up. It's also where I met my husband. I'll talk about him a little more in the podcast. But we are both from Michigan, and yeah, it's been a journey in my life to get to Florida, which is awesome. I'll go more into that as well. And now in my life, I am a creative agency owner. I own a company called Somebody Creative Co. And it is pretty much all things creative. Anything that you need help through it, I can provide a solution for it. And I love being creative. And also, which I was going to talk about this too in the podcast, I feel like people who are creative minded also are sensitive and have creative thought processes and tendencies. And I think that is also a piece to fear that that I think a lot of people in this group will relate to, that when you're creative, you can also be creative in a negative way, in a intrusive thought, or in a catastrophic thinking way. And so I'm learning more and more in my life to take the power of my gift of who I was created to be, which is to be creative, which I believe everybody's creative. And if you don't think you are, you're lying. Or you just need to learn that about yourself. I think everyone is. And use that for good and for benefiting yourself. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I found, you want me to answer about Lovefly? So I found Lovefly in my journey of wanting to face my fear of flying. And I can start from the beginning if you want me to.
I think people like to know how the fear started and how, how bad it was, if that's the right word,
Yeah. So foundationally, I grew up in a family which I love and adore, and there's been great healing. But I had a parent that struggled with addiction in my life. And so the foundation of our family was kind of rooted in this insecure or fear centered culture or household. And so I have a lot of memories of being really anxious as a kid and not really knowing what that
Mm,
was, and my family not really knowing what that was. This was a different era. Mental health awareness has been so wonderful
yeah.
in our lives now, and it's growing. But when I was younger, it was just kind of starting. And I think where I'm from too, the like understanding of what anxiety is was just not really talked about or understood. And so that's my foundation is
Mm,
I have memories of being really little and laying in bed like at 6 or 7 and not being able to take a full breath. And I know now as like an adult that I think I was just feeling anxious and I wasn't able
mm,
to fully feel
yeah.
safe or secure or take a deep breath and was just dealing with anxiety symptoms. And so yeah, that's my foundation. And it started very early for me. So my fear of flying journey started with a trip to Florida from Michigan. So
Okay.
that's where I live now, which is interesting.
That's
It's
ironic,
so,
isn't it? Yeah.
I know, bringing me back here. I was probably around 9 or 8 or something like that, just young. So my fear of flying journey, it started with a vacation to Florida with my family as a young child. So
Mm,
my family um, didn't have a lot of money growing up, so this vacation was huge for
yes.
my family. It was like the first time that we were all going to travel and go. And also, my parents both had never flown before. My mom never had, and I'm pretty sure my dad never had either, or maybe this was like his second or third time flying or something like that. But I knew that like flying wasn't a part of their lives, and it wasn't obviously a part of my life at this point yet either. And so we were getting ready for this vacation. We're packed up and we're driving to the airport, and I'm already nervous about the flight. And I had
Mm,
like all these thoughts and intrusive thoughts as we were driving to the airport. And I was like really starting to get scared and thinking about the plane and thinking about like what does it feel like and what do you do and how am I gonna feel? Does it feel like a roller coaster? I don't like roller coasters. And um yeah, I was already like really feeling this like overwhelming nervousness for flying. So I from the very start, I never like
mm.
I
How old
saw
were you then? Did you say how
sis.
much?
Oh no, I was I think 8 or 9,
Right.
around there, like just young.
Mm,
And I've been looking for this photo. I can't find it, but there's a photo of me in the airport on this trip, and I'm looking out the plane, and I can just see on my little kid face that I'm so scared and
yeah.
nervous. And my mom, she's just taking pictures. It's vacation, and I'm like, I can just see it. I knew what I was going through during that time. It was like gnawing at me on the inside. I was so scared. And so we get to the airport and you're met with the craziness of you walk in and there's so many people and it's huge and you got to go through this line and you're carrying heavy things and there's the TSA and security and I was just so overwhelmed and I was like, this is not helping me. I'm already scared about the flight and then all of this like practical stuff is just too much. It's just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so we get through all uh, the safe, wonderful things, which I know now, uh,
Mhm.
and get to our gate, and I'm just so sick to my stomach. And my anxiety, I think everyone has like a place that it resides in them in different places, and mine is my stomach for some reason. I just get so sick when I'm anxious, and thankfully that's a lot better for me now. But when I was little, I felt really sick to my stomach and I was really nervous. And before we got on the plane, my mom took me in the bathroom because I was scared and I started to talk about it. And I was like, I'll just call grandma and she'll come pick me up and I'll let you guys go. You guys just go. I'll call grandma. She'll come get me. And that's so interesting that my anxiety response was to back out. Even at that young age, I still like that still kind of follows me to this day. Like I have to fight that now as a an adult of like fighting that anxious relief of backing out and not having to do it like that. It's like um so it's a good feeling to feel like you can back out of something and quote unquote protect yourself from something you're afraid of. So that started really young. So my mom was like, "No, we're not gonna do that." And she got really firm with me and she was like, "You're getting on the plane. Go get on the plane," you know? And I just was like so scared. And so we get onto the plane and the flight attendants are, doing their job, checking everything out, saying hello. I know that they're assessing people as they come on now, so they probably were like, "Oh, this poor girl, she's scared out of her mind." And I was just crying, getting on the plane, and I sat down in my seat, and of course they were trying to be helpful with me. They were like, "You're fine." And I am so scared that I get sick and throw up and have to use the little trash bag things that are in the seat. And that is just, to me, I was already so scared and embarrassed, and that just like made me even more embarrassed and made me feel so like out of control of my body. And it just was like I was just so overwhelmed. I'm like, now I'm throwing up, I'm because I'm so scared. And I think I could also tell that my family was a little nervous, but they weren't saying it.
Yeah.
I think my dad was really scared. My mom, like I said before, they had never flown before. This was their first time flying, and I think they both were just, yeah, kind of just nervous or something. It was their first time, but they were putting on a brave face for me. And so I could sense it. I was like, "Oh no, like my parents are scared. My little brother's with me and he's looking at me and now he's scared because I'm like probably freaking him out." Like, and so we take off, and in hindsight, it probably was fine. But I thought that this was like the worst flight turbulence experience of my life. And my dad says that the turbulence was pretty significant, but he was scared too. So who knows? It's probably just normal.
Yeah.
And I was just like I was like yelling out when the bumps would happen, and it was just a mess. It was an absolute mess. And we landed, and of course, it was all safe, landed safely, and we arrived in Florida, and we had our wonderful vacation. But the whole time I am just thinking about the flight on the way home, which I think is a common experience that a lot of people who are facing their fear of flying, they get over that first flight, but then they have there's always going to be two, most likely, in your trips that you're going to fly one time there and one time back. Sometimes you'll have connecting flights, but you can pretty much always bank on the second flight is going to happen for you in your travel journey. And so I was just overthinking it the whole time. So I was already building this anticipatory anxiety about the flight home. And of course, the flight home was the same way. It was, I was scared the whole time. I threw up again. I was really anxious and just couldn't wait to get home. I do remember though that there was this lady on that flight that I think she was nervous too, but she gave me this little stone. It's like a little stone, and it had like a little drawing of an angel or something on it. And she was like, "Here, honey, this is a worry stone, and you can just play with it." And it helps you with your worry, and you can pray and stuff. And it was really sweet. And I think about that. That was really nice.
You get to keep it. Was it
I
alone?
did get to keep it. I don't know where it is now, but she didn't give it to me. She did, she didn't let me keep. So yeah, that was my very first flight experience, and it was awful. And so I didn't like flying from the beginning.
So basically, Emily, you didn't actually you were scared of what you didn't know, And she
was.
kind of imagined it was kind of like fear of the because at that point, never having flown, you had nothing to base it on, did you?
Yes, and that's very common, I think, from my anxiety uh thing that like I deal with myself, and a fear of the unknown is just a deep rooted maybe trigger for me that is hard for me to navigate sometimes. And so as a kid, of course, that's how it was coming out with flying and stuff. So yeah, flying was just I just never um liked it. I never I was so I didn't know anything about it, which, spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about how that really helped me in the future. And I think it would really help a lot of people. But yeah, I that was just my first flying experience. And so as I got older, um, we flew a few more times after that, and I was the same way. I threw up every single time. I was scared. And again, my family was trying their best, but they didn't have the resources or weren't equipped to be able to bring security to me in that sphere, in a lot of spheres too, with what I shared about addiction and stuff. But that was just a place that they didn't know how to help me, I don't think. And um so yeah, it was tough for me when I was little. I also felt like this calling very young to travel and to want to um, maybe work in some mission work and like for church and stuff. And I never could fully dive into that calling, I think, as a young person because I was scared to travel and to fly. And I think now that is going to change for me, which is lovely because of the growth that I've experienced and the healing that I've experienced. But at when I was very young, I do feel like there was something on my life to travel, and I think that it's being redeemed now in my life. And um, so okay, I'm gonna take this in the direction that it will make sense. So
It's all right. People like the backstory because they want to know how bad it was. They don't want to hear like ta-da. They want to hear like, to be brutally honest, they like to hear people's pain because they can relate to it and go, "Oh, she's just like
yes,
me."
yes. So this I don't know if you know this about me, but you're gonna find out right now. I am a huge fan of Bruno Mars.
Okay, that's all right.
And when I was in high school, I was obsessed with him. And so I was so
Say it
obsessed with
again.
him.
When you were in high school, what?
I was obsessed with him.
Right. Okay.
I would say I was his number one fan. I will put that out there on the internet right now on the podcast that I was his number one fan. And I still love him to this day, but as a high schooler for sure. And so, because I loved him so much, I made this video on YouTube asking Bruno Mars to prom. And I asked Ellen from the Ellen show to help me have him go to prom with me.
No way.
Yes. And so I posted those videos as a high schooler. And it's just like back in that time too, like and it wasn't that long. Like back in my day, it wasn't that long ago. But when I was in high school, that was like, posting on YouTube was like fun and new, and it wasn't like this algorithmic thing like it is now, curated thing. And so my video on YouTube went viral, and Ellen's team saw it, and they reached out to me and my family and said, "Hey, we got a small budget. We'll fly you out to LA and you can watch Bruno perform on the Ellen show." And so, you know, I'm not gonna let fear of flying get in the way of going and meeting Bruno Mars. So, but I was very scared to fly and go and do this. So I accepted the offer, of course, and I flew with my family to LA. And This is when I started to feel I think I was just getting a little bit older, and I also think that this travel experience with my family, we all were really unified, and it was kinda giving us, like, this sense of excitement and hope in our family, so I think there was, like, this level of fun and security that I think I was able to associate with the flight, and so I was nervous on the flight there, but I wasn't as nervous as I had been when I was really little and, like, the stories I just shared, and I remembered, sitting on the plane and my little brother was with me, and I was nervous, but I was like, "I'm going to go see Bruno Mars," I have to. It's like, I have to do it. And random fact though, sitting next to me was Bobby Brown's brother.
Okay.
Bobby Brown was married to Whitney Houston, and he was in, like, first class, and he just, like, stuffed his brother in the back, and he was sitting next to me, and he was really nice. That was a random little travel
Yeah,
fact,
yeah.
and and on my flight there. And so, as you can imagine, we fly to LA. I go to the Ellen show, and they surprised me with more than what I expected, and they interviewed me on the Ellen show, and I got to sit in the little red chair with
Oh
Ellen.
my God.
I know, it's crazy. And she had Bruno come out.
No
She had
way.
he had flowers, and he kissed me on the cheek, and we had a fake prom on the set, and we saw dance together on the Ellen show. So anyways, it's great. It's such a funny, crazy story, but I
That is the best.
I
Honestly, but it just falls from it, because people were going, "What?" So
I know.
how old were you then? What age do you do
I think
prom?
I think I was 17. Yeah, I was 17 or something, 16 or 17.
So a 17-year-old young woman meets she's the number one fan of Bruno Mars, and you get to meet him. Oh wow.
Yes. Yes. And it was great. And the flight home, I remember I had a whole row to myself. And I was nervous again too, but I was able to, I think, relax a little bit more. And I got to lay down, with my
Yeah.
feet up on the seat and stuff. And I remember, like, thinking, "Oh, okay, this is like there's a little tinge of hope that I feel in how flying can feel." And so after that, I didn't fly for a little bit. So I took a couple, I think it was a few years before I flew again. And at this point in my life, I met my now husband, but boyfriend at the time, Johnny. And he had family here in Florida. So again, we're from Michigan. We met in Michigan, and his some of his family lived here. And so it was the part in our relationship to where I got to go and meet, like, his family, meet his mom and his sister, but, you gotta fly to go see them.
Yeah.
And I think too, at this point in my life, I was experiencing a lot of, like, anxiety had been ramping here again. I went through a lot with my family at this point and with, um the Ellen stuff. It was just kind of a lot. Like, people were knowing who I was online, and I was getting cyberbullied and stuff a little bit, and I just think it was just a really overwhelming period of my life, and but also a really wonderful time because I met my husband, and we were beginning to figure out our lives and stuff together, and so I was I was just struggling at this point as a person, outside of even flying. I was dealing with panic attacks and, anxiety, panic attacks in my sleep, like, all anything you can think of. Like, I was having intrusive thoughts really bad. I didn't know what those were at this point too, and now I know what they are, and they don't scare me as much.
Mm.
And I was just struggling as a person, again, outside of flying. And so flying was just it lost the that little bit of magic that I was getting when I was when I last had flown. And so we flew to Florida. And also, I think what's interesting is this was the first time I was flying without my family, and I was flying with just Johnny. And we were, becoming young adults, and it was my first time, like, really doing something like that, without my family and traveling and going somewhere kind of far. And so I was just, again, nervous wreck the whole time. I was having stomach issues again too, and I
I have to say, this just sounds bloody awful, honestly.
it's terrible, Paul. Literally, like
It's horrible.
the person, if there's someone listening to this and they're like, I know, this is really hard for me, and I'm trying to find someone that can relate to this. I promise I can relate 1,000,000% to how hard it is to face your fear of flying. Like, actually, I I know that, like, people say that a lot in the group and say that in the podcast and stuff, but I want people to know that when people say, "We get it, you're not alone in this, we understand that it's hard," we really actually mean that. Like, the feelings that you're feeling and the struggles that you're feeling, the anxiety symptoms that are coming up, the racing thoughts, we all feel that too. And thankfully, there is a beautiful promise of when you go through investing in yourself and working on your fear of flying, that there is growth that will happen. And I'm believing that for everyone that's in this group. And I know that it will happen for them. And
Good. I agree.
so, yes, I totally believe in all of them. And so, yes, it was awful. And so this flight, oh my gosh, so I'm going to meet Sally's mom and sister for the first time. So I'm already like anxious, about that. And there was, you know, terrible turbulence. But again, hindsight, I'm like, it probably was nothing. It probably was like nothing. But to me, I was like, this is the worst thing ever. And I'm crying on the plane. And I look over and I can see in Johnny's eyes that he's nervous, but I don't think he was nervous about the flight. I think he was just like, this
Oh
girl.
my God, what have I taken on?
Right. He was like, there's nothing I can really do. We can get off the plane.
We don't be on a Fear of Girlfriends course, I'm afraid. So
Right. Yes. Yes. And so I saw that in his eyes. I looked at him, I just saw it in his eyes, and I went, oh God, like, I can see it. I know that he's scared. And that just made me like million times more scared because he was like feeling it. And it was just, I laugh at it now because we have been on a great journey together, and now we travel together, which is lovely. And I've had so much fun with him recently. But where we came from, that poor guy, that poor guy. It's just so funny. And so, yeah, that is kind of where I like am feeling.
So this sounds like a real low point.
Low point, low point. I'm like, this sucks. Like, flight sucks. I'm done with it.
So how long ago was this, Emily?
So this was probably about 10 years ago,
Okay.
roughly. And then, so we get back from that trip, and in my heart, I pretty much make a vow I'm never flying ever again. I'm like, this is too much. Like, I'm really done with it. It's too much. And I can't handle it. And it's way too overwhelming. And it's just too much. I just was done with it. And I didn't really say that out loud, I don't think, but I just was like, I'm never doing this again. I like had that thought in my brain. The sentence went in my head and was like, I'm I'm just done. I'm giving it up. Dust in my hands, I'm done. And so, which was, you know, a really telling for, or it was telling for the time.
So can I ask then, do you think that there was a sense of relief as you said that as well? Or
Oh my gosh, yes. And that's a huge thing that I think a lot of people, again, in this group will relate to, is that that feeling of relief does feel really nice and does feel safe, and it does feel like Yeah, relieving. That's what you're searching after. You're looking for this relief feeling. And you're looking for that relief feeling in a lot of areas, especially when you start your journey of facing your fear and you have to challenge yourself a lot. And I'll go into that with my tips later, but
Yeah.
yeah, that feeling of relief was like, okay, thank God I'm never having to go through that again. Even I'm fine without flying. I don't need to travel. I don't need to see the world. I don't I'll just drive. It's okay.
Oh, Michigan was great, stay here.
Yeah, Michigan's great. And yeah. So I was done with it. Silently, a silent vow in my heart. And so fast forward, we did move to Michigan. We drove. And I, of course, I think I was married at this point, and we had this awesome opportunity with Johnny's family to go to the Grand Canyon. His mom was like paying for the Airbnb and like all these it was wonderful. She was like, I'll take everyone. I want to go with everybody. And I didn't go because I was so scared. Yeah.
Okay, when was this? So how long ago was that?
So this was maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5.
Okay.
From right now? Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So not that long ago. And I just could not, like, I couldn't do it. I just was like, I can't go. I'm so sorry, Johnny. I want to. I think deep down there's a little spark, a little desire. There's this like deep sadness that I'm feeling that I want to be there with your family, but it just feels way too overwhelming.
Yeah.
And my husband was really sad, of course, and they all were sad. They wanted me to go, but he's so wonderful and loving and understood. But he didn't hold back from letting me know that he was sad and did want me to go, and it was really a bummer for him. And so I just remember they went on their trip, and I got pictures and stuff, and I was just home by myself.
That's awful watching.
It was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful, and I cried, and I think that really started the process of evaluating my decision to not fly because I was feeling deep down, wait a second, I want to go. I want to fly. I want to travel. I want to be adventurous. And yeah, and I was feeling all of those feelings. And so I was like, I have to figure something out. And so I got curious and I looked up just some stuff online, seeing there's books. I got a book, I think, from Amazon. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a Facing Your Fear of Flying, and found a few Instagram accounts that had really good information on them, which I found in my life. I really value knowledge, and I think a lot of people do. I think we're wired that way to love learning and to love understanding and to understand why things work and why we do them. It's just intentionality, I believe. And I really started to like get a tinge of love for how aviation works in the industry and how flying even happens and like the science behind all of it and how much goes into the safety of flying. And I was just, yeah, I started to find little Instagram accounts. And then, of course, I found Lovefly, which is wonderful and has been such a beautiful
So what did you sign
feeling.
first? Did you go? I'm just always interested, right? What the end
I think I think it was the podcast.
Right.
Because I really like podcasts and I like learning, like I was just saying. And I think I looked up Fear of Flying podcast or something, and there was a couple. There's actually a lot of great resources out there, but Love Fly, for me, I think is really special because you bring on people from all different places.
Right. Emily Birrell. What was the first episode you listened to then? When we got tested.
I think it was with Captain Steve.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, Captain Steve. And he was talking about just like how the stages of flight or something.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I was like, oh wait, I didn't know that sinking feeling after you take off is normal and that you're gonna feel that every single time and that is totally fine and it's just part of flying. I thought the plane was falling out of the sky and stuff, like I was like they're running out of juice up there or something. Like it really did feel like that. And so I found the podcast and I was like, wait a second, this is really special and really cool. And I just like dove in to all of them. I then started from episode 1 and went and like listened every single day on my drive to a podcast. And I love how you bring on people, like I said, from different places, from people that are in the industry to people who are facing a fear to people who are overcame their fear or still in the middle of working it out. Like it's a very special thing that you've built. And I got really just obsessed with that. And I also love the Facebook group community because there's something to encouraging others on their journey that also encourages you.
Yeah.
I think that when you write an encouraging thing or you remind someone of a fact or you bring them back to a reality thought or something, you're also doing that to yourself and your subconscious. And there's something really healing about serving and helping people in that way.
So,
That also
so
lifts
Emily,
your dog.
so trying to work out your timeline here, because
Yes.
when people are listening, they think, "Oh my God, that I mean, I was." She sounds like she was really dire, and she had the vomiting thing as well, which comes up to
Yes.
people. So they'll be then thinking, "Okay, how long does it actually take you?"
Yes.
So when did
So
you first dive in, and what else were you doing, and when did you start to feel better? I think that's what I want.
yes. So my family went on the Grand Canyon trip, and then probably about a year or so after that, I'm I or right after their trip, I found Lovefly and I got just obsessed with aviation. And then probably about 6 months to a year, I got another opportunity to fly. And it was to meet my new baby niece, Solanis, which is her name. And my family, my brother, my little brother that I've been talking about in this story timeline, he and his wife had a baby coming, and I was needing to plan a trip to go meet her. And I was like, I have to go. I have to go meet her. This is like, I think at the time too, I was working, so there was no option for driving 20 hours because that's how long of a drive it is from Florida to like a 20.
Yeah,
Yes.
country's just enormous. It's ridiculous.
It's huge. It's
It's
just,
got too much.
I know it's a lot. And so driving to Michigan is just like, it's just, we've done it before because I was scared of flying, right? And I was like, I was even like, I don't really want to do that. It's too much. And so we got on the, like, the, sorry, we got to figure out how we were going to get there with the plane and stuff like that. And I remember learning, I think in the Lovefly community, I think Geeta might have said this. Geeta, right? I think that's her name.
Yes, yeah, Keita, yeah.
And she said something about like having an anchor thought that helps you with each stage of your travel journey. And so, like, for example, for me, my anchor thought was when I go through the TSA line, I'm one step closer to meeting my sweet little niece. When I get on the plane and sit down, I'm one step closer to meeting my niece. When they close the door and they lock, so on and so on. And that was probably my first actual tool that I used intentionally while flying. Again, like I said, I had been diving into the podcast for about a year and learning about it a little bit more. But this
So,
particular
Emily,
trip,
sorry,
yeah,
I have to interrupt because there's a couple of really nice bits here that are really helpful.
yes,
So, when was the flight, the baby flight? Can you remember what date that was? So it could just help people because they're listening to you now,
2021,
Okay. Right.
summer of 21, a
All
little
right.
after COVID.
So you've been doing a year of the podcast by then, possibly?
Yes, possibly. Yep.
And were you starting to feel better or more encouraged?
So I was feeling like I was gaining knowledge, but my body hadn't quite caught up, I think, to that knowledge. So my mind knew a lot.
Interesting.
My mind knew a lot of facts. I had a lot of great mantras. I had a lot of great proof, which is like through the podcast that you can overcome this and that there were experts that you can trust. But I think my actually like going and flying and practicing, intentionally practicing flying with that knowledge wasn't there yet because I needed to do my first flight since facing my fear of flying. And so that flight was probably, yeah, like about a year after kind of learning those things and kind of getting obsessed with aviation. And we got on our flight and I was
Hang on,
this
hang on.
oh,
Don't just jump straight in there. So
oh,
what leading up to it, was there any anticipatory anxiety or anything like that? What's your
of course. Yes.
okay? Thank you.
Yes, I was
Don't make it too easy, Emily. If it was a bit,
sorry.
oh, it wasn't that bad, then
No, it was bad. It was well, it wasn't as bad as it was in the past because I did have some concrete knowledge, but it was still like I said, my body was still catching up to that knowledge and I still was scared and overthinking the night before and I was anxious and was like still feeling sick, still not really used to the feeling of going to an airport and getting on a plane. It was just like still really overwhelming for me in that way. And we got on this plane to fly and it was literally I was scared and my stomach was sick and I think I even threw up before the flight, honestly. I still had that natural like rhythm of facing the fear and like like the anxiety was still coming out in that way. But I was determined and I was in the driver's seat in my frontal lobe of no,
love it.
we're gonna go and do this. And that's a huge, hard, doable thing that I know that everyone in this group can do is be in the driver's seat of your fear of flying journey and take control of your anxieties. It's awesome and hard still, and your body fights you on it so much. But if you keep pushing through and you keep intentionally working and chipping away at it, your body does eventually listen to you and relaxes and doesn't have that stuff come up as much. And so I white knuckled the whole flight to go meet my niece. And I didn't get up to go to the bathroom or anything. And I think I like watched a movie and just tried to zone out. And this is something that I think this is a personal thing between me and my belief with God and stuff. But those flights were so smooth and so beautiful. Again, not that turbulence is bad or anything, which, we know that in this group. But I think that there was this like really sweet journey that I feel like God was wanting to bring me on personally to help me in this area. And even if you don't believe in God or anything like that, you can still invest in yourself to go through this journey and give yourself grace through this journey. And yeah, I just felt like it was just such a beautiful, like, first time facing my fear. It was so lovely, and I just am thankful for that because it gave me a little bit of a glimpse of how I can pursue this continually and be able to do this. Like, it just gave me a confidence, and it helped me with the foundation. It wiped away a lot of like, it helped my mind really think of it as, like, this is me actually flying for the first time because I have knowledge and facts and understanding, and I'm choosing this too myself, and it's my first time that I will be able to, yeah, do this for me and for my family and to trust the process and to do it. And so those flights were wonderful, even though internally I was like, you know, freaking out, but I just kept
That's
saying,
amazing though. So, so the anchor thought
yes,
reached the Gita tip, and
yes,
your determination really, you can hear it. And I love the fact, in the driving seat. Great,
yes.
great use of language. That's a really nice way to describe it.
And I think too that like that tool made me, I don't know if I already said this, but made me really be like, look at it as, oh, I can be intentional while I fly. I don't just have to endure or to white knuckle. I can actually grow in this. I have like an actual tool to bring with me, which was the anchor thought, and then obviously there's way more now. But it gave me this sense of like this is a mission. Like this is a lesson, like I'm signing up for getting over fear of flying school. And I'm not going to be perfect at it right off the bat. And I'm going to have grace for that. And I'm going to have lots of feelings, and my body's going to protest in certain ways. But because I have these like tools, I'm able to just really look at it as a intentional lesson every single time that I fly. And so that's how it started for me was I had that anchor thought and I went, "Whoa, wait a second. What other tools are there?" And so I made it there and back, met my sweet little niece. She was so cute, still so cute. And I was so proud of myself. I like got home and I was like, I can't believe I did that. Like it was very difficult and I was scared and I cried, I think a little bit. I also hadn't been back to Michigan since I moved. And there was a lot of, I think, trauma and pain in Michigan personally. And so going back was overwhelming for me too. So that's another thing too that I think people would like to hear or maybe have never thought of before is that sometimes your journey, like it's not necessarily the plane or the flight. Sometimes like where you're going or like where you're at in your life is kind of just carrying and masking itself over the fear of flying, if that makes sense. Like
Mm.
I was going to go see my sweet niece, but I was also going and seeing a family that I was growing a lot in healing with and getting over a lot of um painful things and forgiving and it was just like a beautiful marker I think in my life that trip specifically of facing my fear, taking ownership, forgiveness, and healing. Like it was huge for me. It was a big flight. And so we came back and I was like, wait, maybe, maybe I can fly. Maybe, maybe this is something that I can grow in. And I got finally another opportunity to fly again.
Mm.
And so probably about another 6 months to a year after this flight, so probably 2023-ish or something, 22, 23. we got this opportunity to go to Yellowstone, and that's like this most beautiful place in America. It's out like west-ish area, and it's just like full of the most beautiful landscape and animals. And it was like, how can I say no to going on a once in a lifetime trip?
Yeah.
Which I hope I go back, but like you never know. And I said we were going, it was me, my husband, and then we had two friends that were going to go with us, another couple, and we were going to go and camp there for a few days. And so I was like, okay, this is like actually I'm choosing to go do this for fun. It's not like the obligation was like to go see family, but that was like, you gotta go see your niece. Like it's your first time seeing her and stuff. But this was like my first time choosing like a vacation and like to
Yeah, so there's
go
no sort of
for
strong
myself.
imperative, is there? There's no not like
No.
got to see this niece. It's
Yes.
a it's a jolly.
Right. Like I don't have to go to Yellowstone. I don't have to do this, but I want to do this. And that was a little tough too because I'm feeling like that's something I can easily back out of if I
Okay.
want to.
Pause.
And so I
Emily Birrell, right? Pause there.
yes,
So
Birrell.
you had 6 months to 12 Birrell. So you got 6 to 12 months. Were you still doing podcasts? What else were you doing? What was your process?
Yes. Still doing the podcast. I was then like actually like people were like, okay, that's enough talking about planes. Like that's fine. Please stop talking about planes at the table. I got like this the flight radar app.
Oh yeah.
Um and I was just like left and right looking up stuff. Like I'm like, that's an A320. I'm guessing it's an A320. And my husband's like, wow, cool, like
Yeah.
I just yes, I just got even more obsessed. I started following some pilot accounts too, like people that are pilots.
Mm.
And I think that it really normalized because I can't picture myself being a pilot. And I think there's a level of anxiety to like that thought of I couldn't really do anything if anything ever happened on a plane. I just would have to trust trust the experts and stuff.
Mhm.
And I think that lack of control, releasing that control is massive. Because like you have like this like fake sense that in a car you have some sort of control or on a boat even, but not really. I wouldn't even know how to drive a boat. And so I think I started following these like pilots and I was like, wait, they love this. They love flying. Like that's like this is like what they were made to do. Like they have their brains were made for this. They pined away and worked really, really hard for this career to be able to do that. They would not just do this just to do it like on a whim. Like this is something they've earned and worked really hard at. And so I followed people like Flyman Simon.
Oh yeah.
And there's another Pilot Maria. She's a woman pilot, which I love. Um,
I know you. Yeah.
yes,
I've tried to get her onto the podcast, but she's not answered.
yes.
You've got any ins? I love that.
Okay, there's a Pilot Don and Captain Chris, and there's so many. They're just I follow a bunch of them, and I just love watching their stories and their content because they just normalize it and they make it like, no, this is my job. I do this. And I love that. It's so great. And so, yeah, that really helped me in that time. And I just got really even more obsessed with it and started talking about it way too much. And um, I also realized that my, yeah, my efforts will produce a will produce growth for me. If I keep working at this, I was starting to see little things. I was starting to feel better about certain things, and I was starting to know things, and it was starting to like really solidify in my heart and in my mind and stuff about like what flying is. And so yeah, I was getting ready for my Yellowstone trip. And this was like, I'm so proud of myself because this was like a long flight, like a 4.5 hour flight to me. I know that there's more long haul and stuff, but to me, a 4.5 hour flight was pretty long for like my coming back into facing my fear. And I was going to do 2 flights there and 2 flights back. So it was on like a regular A320 or something. And then once we got to Salt Lake City, we were going to fly from there to Yellowstone. And that's a much smaller plane. That's like a little Embraer or whatever Delta Connect plane. And I was nervous about that too. I was like, I've never flown on different planes. I didn't even know there was different planes. I thought they were all just like the one big plane. I didn't even know there was different sizes. And so I'm just so like beyond proud of myself that oops, earbud fell out. I am just so beyond proud of myself that I pursued that and did those flights. And the flight there, I did throw up again. I hate to say it. It's like I'm just bearing my soul. I'm gonna be honest on this podcast. I threw up again, which is like so annoying to me because I don't want to. But I think again, whatever my body throws at me, I'm still in the driver's seat. So just because I'm whatever, I guess I needed to throw up, and I felt better afterwards. And when we flew to Yellowstone, I made a joke with my friend because my friend was there, and I was like, anxiety's so funny or something, and we just started laughing together. And because I was laughing about that I flew up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just so fun, like crazy to me that I am having all these physical symptoms come up right now. But I was able to like kind of separate myself from it and be like, oh my gosh, my hands were shaking. What the heck is this? And me and my friend got to laugh together. And I think that kind of broke it a little bit for me. The flight was a little bit more manageable. And so I did great on that flight. I was still nervous. I was still scared. I sat on the aisle seat, but I got up and I used the bathroom. I talked to the flight attendants. I told them that it was my one of my first times facing my fear of flying. And they were like, I told them about Lovefly, and I said, if you ever have anyone on the flight that needs help when they get off or anything, tell them about Lovefly because it is really helpful.
Thank you very much.
And yes, I love what you do, really. It's great. And my little plane that I went on was great too. I was really nervous for it, but once I was like in the zone to flying, because it was like a connecting flight, you got to get on like in an hour after you land. I think that helped me too. Like I was in it. I was in it and I was going. And I told the flight attendant on that flight, the little plane, that I was nervous. But and she said that's okay. And she came up to me and she let me sit a little closer to the front, which was really nice because it was a small plane. There wasn't a lot of people on it. And she said, my name is Hope. And she said, and that's what we're going to have for this flight. We're going to have great hope or something like that. It was really lovely. And she let me know, she was like, I want to let you know when we come in for landing, there's some clouds we're going to come through and it might bounce around a little bit, but it's okay. It's totally normal. But she just let me in on like little things. She was very, very lovely. And we landed and first of all, I got to see the beautiful landscape of, I think it's in Wyoming, and like look out and see the mountains and see like, it was just so beyond gorgeous. And I was like, wait a second. This is like a privilege. Flying. Flying is a privilege that a lot of humans won't get to experience. or haven't experienced it more what I mean. Especially within the last 100 years, like we are the special, wonderful generation that gets to see
Yeah.
what it looks like to be in a plane. So I felt like again another little gem, another little glimmer of that, and I was able to really like enjoy for that last little bit when we were flying. I was like, wait, this is cool.
Yeah.
And so my flight back from Yellowstone, which Yellowstone was amazing. Oh, I took video too the whole time. I don't know if I mentioned that. And I was like, I'm gonna take video every time I fly because it really is helpful for me. But I think also helpful for other people to
Definitely.
see that it's really normal and everything when you're in there, from the sitting down at the seats to the looking out the window, like it's just normal. It normalizes a lot of things. And yeah, so my flight home, I still felt kind of the same. I was a little more nervous than I, and I think I was before, on my way there. I don't know what that is with that, like being afraid to fly this on the way home or something. It's just like it's a little harder for some reason. And but I did great and landed, and it was wonderful. And when we landed, I really realized that this is something that I need to keep doing to get better. And if I stop, I won't get better. And so we planned more trips. I went to San Francisco for a wedding, and that was lovely too. And I did great, did better than
So was it
Yellowstone. Just like
each time? Was it like
each time it was improving, yes.
Right.
Just by a little. I think my anticipatory anxiety was still the same, which was so annoying to me. And I know a lot of people relate to that. They're like, I don't want this. I know flying is safe. Why am I anticipating and stuff? And I, yes, every flight did a little bit better and better and better. And I took lots of video and I just started to feel better. Now, I was sitting on the aisle seat for all of these flights, right? And which I think seats matter or anything. I'm not trying to suggest that. But we flew recently, like last October, to Michigan. So now we're catching back up to more recent. And we flew to yeah, just to Michigan just to see family. And I sat on the window for the first time because I was really nervous to do that.
Yeah.
I was nervous because one, I didn't want to ask people to get up, and I also didn't know how I would feel. Excuse me, being like feeling that feeling of being trapped on the window or something. But there was something about being on the window that like broke open this absolute magical feeling of flying for me that like I just looked out the window the whole time and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so beautiful and so lovely. I need to cough, so sorry. Cut the cameras. Cut that out, please. So yes. Um yeah, I just it was just so lovely. And I saw the beautiful clouds and I saw us come out of the clouds and I got to see like the wings working and the just the like I could really understand the turns. I felt the turns, but I could see the turns too, and I think that kind of demystified like the sensations inside the
Yeah.
plane. And I don't know, it just literally broke open for me and I went, wait a second, I can do this for life. I really can do this for life. And I loved it. And we landed. Michigan was great. On the way home, I did have a little bit more like anticipatory anxiety come up again, but I just kept pushing through it. And I got on the plane, and again, I was like, wait, this is so beautiful. And we took off, and I think the sun was kind of still rising, and it was just so beyond beautiful. And I felt like myself, which that was such a gift to me. It was such a gift because these last however many flights I had done up until this point, I did not feel like myself at all. I felt like a ball of anxiety, and I was just trying to come out of this identity or person that was anxious, like really bad. And I felt like me. I just relaxed. I wasn't overthinking a lot of things. I was present, and it was just such a gift. I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, there is something to being intentional about your fear journey because it does pay off and it does help you. The more that you work at this with the right tools, the right mindset, the exposure, all of it, it does pay off. And so that was just incredible for me. And then actually most recently, within like the past few weeks, I went again to Michigan. It was a quick trip, but it was even better than that flight. I was able to eat before. I hadn't been able to eat prior to any of these flights. I felt sick every single time pretty much. And I literally was tearing up while eating because I was like, this is such a blessing because I had been desiring to eat for before flights for so long because you don't feel good when you don't eat and you feel worse and you feel lightheaded and sick and when you eat you feel better. And that was I think a huge marker for me that I my stomach, my body fully is trusting and releasing and letting go.
Whoa, hang on, whoa, whoa, whoa. So right, okay. So you whiskey the moment, the body's caught up, looking out the window, and this is a big turning point, isn't it? So you're back to being yourself. So how long ago was this flight?
So this one, so October of last year was the one when it broke open, and then this flight that I'm talking about where I ate was not that long ago. It was like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago from filming today. So early May or something. And I felt so like myself on this flight. I sat by myself too. I didn't let my husband sit by me on the way there. I said, let me try it because I want to fly. Eventually, I want to fly by myself for that. And I think that's my next challenge because I've been challenging myself every flight. That's another tip, which I'll add, which we'll talk about, is if you give yourself a small challenge each flight, I don't think it feels as overwhelming.
Yeah.
You don't have to like be perfect at facing your fear right off the bat and do all these things. But each flight you take, give yourself a challenge, whether it's get up to use the bathroom or anything like take your headphones out or try to sleep, actually fall, that was one of my challenges when I flew to San Francisco was to fall asleep on the plane, and I did. Not for long, but I was like, I'm gonna try to do this because I know my body will thank me for it eventually. Because when you fall asleep, your body really believes you're safe. And I did, and I'm so happy about that too. But little challenges I think are great. And so, yeah, this last flight was sitting by myself and not looking at the flight map or anything like that, counting down, looking at the time. And I think that's a huge thing that, like, again, coping mechanisms are okay while you're facing this. But when you really release as much as you can and trust, your body really is thankful for that. I think it really responds. It responds better than you think you're going to respond because you're saying we don't need to worry about that stuff. We don't need to look at the flight radar. We don't need to be glued to that screen. And it goes, oh, okay, thank you. So yeah.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
I go for flights.
Wow.
My next challenge is an overseas flight. And I
Mhm.
said I want to go to England or London or something. Like go.
Got to where people will be able to pronounce your name correctly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unlike me.
That's so funny. Yes, that's my next challenge. I want to do that. I
Where would you go?
little a pub
A
somewhere.
pub. Well, there's quite a lot. Like thick in area. You don't mean I know England's tiny.
I'm gonna be so honest. I would need to look at a map and go. I don't really know. I just know I want to find my way.
Okay, so when you come to do that, right, you need, go onto the Lovefly community and just say,
Yeah.
right, I'm coming to England. Where do you
Yeah.
recommend? Because
Yes.
I've got a few ideas, but you'll get loads of suggestions.
Yes.
No, I just want to go to a pub. And there's a ton of them.
Yes. Yes. I really. I think that would be a huge thing for me is to travel overseas.
You've done so well. It's just remarkable, and I love the detail of the story. And as people will listen to this, they'll be able to sort of go, "Oh yeah, okay." So you can start off perfect. You're still not perfect, but you would do it. And like, there's lots of little bits. So let's have the tips then.
Yes.
Give us the tips. Give us your wisdom. I know you've dropped a few in along the way, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just everyone lock in. You can listen to those. Lock in. Ready? Get your phone.
Hang on a sec, I'm just gonna put some power on. My laptop's about to run out. No, get there. All right.
Yeah.
I'm still here. All right. You can drink some water. Yeah.
Thank you.
Go.
Okay. All right. Yes. Everyone, lock in. Get your pen and paper. I'm ready to share some tips that I think have helped me so much. And yes, I really hope that they help you too. So, of course, learn about flying. Knowledge is power. We hear this a lot. I unapologetically become obsessed with flying. That's what I did. I didn't care what people thought. Not that anyone thought anything, but like I just had to get obsessed with it and learn about it and talk about it because it really normalizes it. And it also makes you really like it too. Like the really liking the and loving aviation and how much safety and care and intentionality goes into it and how people work really hard for their jobs. It just made me really respect it a lot. And I'm grateful for growing in that way. I think the also falling in love with the aviation community, so like following pilots or people that are trusted, people in authority that have like followings and stuff in that way. Obviously, you have to be careful who you follow and stuff, but there's a lot of people in the Lovefly group that people could suggest and people that I've said so far that are great. Get it in the Lovefly community. Again, unapologetically be commenting left and right, listening to the podcasts, talking to people. That is so huge. Seeing other people who are going through something that you are going through really is so helpful because you release this shame or something, whatever the word would be, off of yourself. Because when you're able to see another person going through it, you have empathy for them, of course. You're like, oh gosh, I see them going through that. Of course, I don't want them to feel that or go through that. I have a heart for them. And I think it helps you also have a heart for yourself because you are in that same position. And so, really getting into the Love Life community is huge. Keep commenting, it's great. Know that turbulence is normal. I didn't know turbulence was normal. I thought it was like, this isn't supposed to happen. Why is this happening? This does not feel right. But really learning that it is not something to be scared of. Obviously, you respect it and you keep your seatbelt on and you listen to the pilots and the people in authority, if they tell you to put your seatbelt on, put it on. It's it's still a vehicle if it's that's flying. You got to be careful. You would do that in a car. You put your seatbelt on in the car, and it. But when you know that it's normal part of flying, I think for me it really it was still something I had to get used to, and I'm still getting used to it. I don't really love the feeling of it still, but I know that it's just normal.
Yeah.
And I think too, your body is made to. So there's this piece of your brain called the amygdala, and it is the fear center of your brain. And I saw this thing that equated it to like a receptionist. So they call her Amy for short. And her job in your brain is to be really fast at getting you information and alerting you. Our job isn't necessarily to be right all the time or even ever. Her job is just to be quick and fast. And so when you have intrusive thoughts come up or feelings or physical anxiety symptoms or thought or whatever, that's just your amygdala trying to get your attention and say, "Hey, we're getting some signals here that we're not safe, and we just got to let you know." But you, as the person that's in the driver's seat or the boss, Amy's boss, you're able to say, "Thank you, Amy." And I think too, there's a part you don't shame the amygdala for doing this. You thank your amygdala. Thank you for being quick. I honor that, but I also don't need to take your suggestion because I know it's safe. But thank you. And so again, easier said than done, but that was really helpful for me that not every thought is truth. Not every sensation is truth. And most of the time it's not. Um, at first, sensations while flying, if it's your first time facing your fear, will feel more intense. But as you go more and more, I think your body just gets used to it and it doesn't feel as intense. When I first started flying, I was like, oh, you like take off and you're like, like it just feels like this massive thing. But now it's not. Like now I understand why people fall asleep before it takes off. I'm like, okay, you still feel stuff. You're not gonna
Tell that guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
I bet. You're gonna feel like sensations in your stomach and stuff. I have noticed that does feel a little better for me. I'm not as like in control of trying to feel in the sensation. If you have a deep rooted fear that's separate from fear of flying, which I think a lot of this and a lot of people who will be on this might consider looking into where this root of fear might come from. Like for me, it was family and insecurity and stuff in our home and things like that. You are going to have to do like a lot of elbow grease work, and that's okay. Like you might need to also partner with a therapist. You might need to uh do more like Lovefly help. Like I know that you offer tailored help, and that is okay. That is totally great, and that's why it exists. And it doesn't mean that you're worse off than any other people or that you're a lost cause or anything like that. It's just, if anything, it will help you outside of flying too. And I found that a lot of these things that I've learned on how to help with anxiety and stuff has helped me outside of just facing my flying. It's helped me in normal life and social settings and things.
Hmm.
That's another one. Radically accepting that anxiety can't harm you. It's just anxiety.
Whoa, say that one again. That's cool.
So radically accepting that
Radically
anxiety is
accepting.
just radically accept it.
Mm.
Just like dive into that acceptance, jump into it. Don't be don't have any reservations, dive deep into it. It's okay. Anxiety can't harm you. It's just anxiety, it's just physical sensations. And again, like I've already said, some of the time it's just trying to be fast and help you. But it doesn't need to with flying because flying is safe. Keep flying. It's normal. I didn't realize how I didn't realize that your flight happens like every day. I keep saying the word like, so sorry. That's just the American in me, I think.
That's all right.
The
You are American. It's okay.
yes, yes. The your flight that you will be on is scheduled, and it's almost like a bus. That's not a bus. I know it's way more in depth than that, but it's flying at like it's flying every day pretty much. There and back and there and back. Like my Michigan flight from Florida happens like 4 times a day or something.
Mm.
I thought like when you fly, it's the only flight in the world or something. So it's so funny. So
Not a particularly successful business model, but I can
right,
understand why people also might think that. Yeah.
it makes sense. It makes sense. You should fly more. So say hello to the captain is another one if you're able. Obviously ask first. That's what I do. I ask the flight attendant, is there any way I can say hello? That was another challenge. I think it really normalizes the process and it also puts a face to the voice you'll hear. And it really, like, they're usually always so lovely, the pilots. Everyone that I've met, they come on in, come on in. Oh, you're fine. I got you. We're safe. You know, they are. I've just found it's really helpful to just say hi and thank them. Thank you for what you do. And what's really cool, the side note, if you fly Delta, they have trading cards that you can ask the pilot for, which is a fun little thing. So if you fly often, which I made this a fun little thing, you can go to the pilot and say, do you have the trading card for the plane I'm flying on right now? And they'll go, yes, I have an A320 or whatever, an A220, Neo or whatever. And they have like these little Pokemon cards that have a plane on them. And in the aviation community, I've found like they're not for kids. Like there's a lot of adults that collect them. And I have like this one pilot gave me like 40. I was like, thanks. And I went carrying them back in my seat. It was so funny. I was trying to collect each plane I've been on, so I just had like a reminder. I've done this plane, I've done this, like it's just fun. So that's a fun little tip. Well, I think Delta does it and maybe American Airlines, but those I know for sure Delta does that. So if you're fly Delta, it's fun. Catastrophic thinking is, I think, one of the first things you should combat. And I think from a place of, like I was saying in the very beginning, when you have a creative brain or a sensitive brain, which I think a lot of people in this group have, you're really good at creating images or stories. And that is something that can be used for good, which is awesome. But it also is something that you should fight against, I think, first, or combat first, with grace and understanding, of course. But anytime that catastrophic thought comes up, take it and release it. And it doesn't mean you don't stop thinking about it. You can, this is a little trick that I do, is you take your thought and you pretend to put it on a shelf and just leave it on the shelf. Because you're an honor.
Where's that from?
I learned that a long time ago, like a long time ago when I was young or something.
Okay.
And another thing I learned was so think of a lemon, Paul.
Okay.
Cutting open a lemon. Cutting open a lemon. Now think of taking that lemon and squeezing the juice in your mouth and pretend to like that you're tasting the lemon. Now, I don't know about you, but my mouth watered a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's no lemon in front of us here. And it really shows how expansive our minds is and how when you think of things, it can create physical sensations in your body. That's from a Fear of Flying book that I read a long time ago. And it really shows that sometimes that your catastrophic thinking or those things will produce physical sensations, but that doesn't mean that those things are happening or ever will happen. And your physical sensation doesn't mark that you are in danger, but your body might think you are because of the thoughts that you're having.
Mm.
So that's interesting to me. I think about that lemon analogy all the time because my mouth waters every time, and I didn't even have a lemon. Okay, I have 3 more. I know I must.
Good. It's good. Great list.
Start with, if you're going to start, you can do whatever you need to do that makes sense. Again, what presented to me was a flight to Michigan and also like Yellowstone and stuff, and those were longer flights. But if you haven't flown in a long time, just start with like a 1-hour flight. And like my mother-in-law says all the time, well, I can do anything for an hour. And it's true. You really can. Like, it's just 1 hour. You can do it. You can make it through. You will be able to, I think your nervous system is able to really work through something for an hour. Just like in class and stuff. Like, that's why most classes are an hour. It's just, I would really suggest booking your first flight be about an hour or so, because then you get a good little taste of everything and a little bit of cruise and stuff.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion. You don't have to like do a huge long haul flight right off the bat, unless, the opportunity presents. That doesn't mean anything differently. You still can push through and be fine on a long haul flight. But for the people who haven't flown in a really long time, that's what I would suggest.
Okay.
Another one is film your experience. Peter Higgins, I think, said this in the chat or in the group, and it's to look back on and remind yourself that you did it, and you get to see yourself doing it. So I actually film myself in the seat, and I can look at myself and I'm like, I'm fine. Look at me on the plane. I'm literally fine. And I'm able to like remind myself and bring like this understanding of I'm safe, and I'm able to see that in the video, and it's great. So that's another one. It's really good for other people too. And that's more me because I like video editing, and so I like to make little videos for people. And that is my last one.
Okay.
One day flying will be fun for you. And I believe that if you're listening to this, that there is joy in this, and you will eventually feel that joy. You just have to keep doing this. I never thought that I would get to a point where I felt joy while flying or fun while flying or even just like bored, normal. Like sometimes it's boring, and one day you will experience that. If you've made it this far in the podcast, I know I've been yapping for a while. I believe that you will have success in this if you keep pursuing this. And I'm really proud of you, the person listening to this, for doing everything that you can by listening to the podcast, getting in community, all of those things. You can do this. And I fully believe that. And every time that you fly, deep down, your subconscious remembers and it will listen to you. And yeah, I just believe that fully that you can do this. I never thought I would be saying that I love to fly. I really didn't. I promise you. And I now say that, and I believe fully that you can do this. And everyone in the group, myself included, anyone is welcome to message me or anything like that. I'll help you as best as I can, and I'm with you. And I am, yeah, just believing that for you.
Emily, what an awesome human you are. That was just packed full of great stuff. That's why I didn't interrupt. I just thought you had a nice little tale going on there, and you covered it all off beautifully. I felt we got a sense of your journey, and then you beautifully wrapped it up with all those tips at the end. Fantastic.
Thank you, Paul. And again, thank you so much for leading Lovefly and all the people that are involved. It's been a very healing thing for me, and it has opened up my world and my life, and I am able to dream about this now and take ownership over it. And I'm very grateful for you.
Well, You're very welcome. And on behalf of all the team that works with me, and there's 3 of us founders. There's John, who you mentioned there on, Susan, who's the clinical person. Then you got Pete Higgins, who I've worked with for years, and he's just, and then lots of fantastic people that you've mentioned some of them, but you're right, there's some amazing people in the group, and you're one of them. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
So work out where the hell you're going to go in England, because pub
Yes.
is pinning down a bit. All right.
I'll take some suggestions.
I would go for anywhere. Probably, there's so many great places to go for such a small country. So
Where are you at?
I'm near Gatwick, which is
Gatwick. Okay.
it's quite pretty. It's quite rural. I'm originally from the West Country, so if you go down to Bath, Bristol, that sort of way, which is very country. That's pretty down there. Depends what you're in.
Well, maybe
Depends what
if
you're
I
into.
come to Gatwick, we should meet up.
All right, I'll hold you to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
They even have pubs at Gatwick. There you go.
That's what I hear.
What's not to like? They have something called Wetherspoons, which is probably not a great first experience.
Oh.
Into England. This is like a really dodgy, cheap pub. Cheap pub. Let's put it like that.
I kind of like that.
Okay.
Vibe.
Oh, Emily. Oh, just absolutely brilliant. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the effort you put into it, and sharing your story and your vulnerability. And it's lovely to hear your success, and also that you're not the finished article, that there's still work to do. And I just love your positivity and determination. It's going to be a great help to people. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Better stop recording then, aren't I?